edition of Legacy Builders Unleashed. This is a video series all about how do we as entrepreneurs extend our legacy beyond, the time that we're committing to our business and cascading that further into the world. So I am very delighted to be here with my new friend, Ryan Townend. And we are going to be talking all about time management techniques and how do we balance it all in and amongst running a business, all of our personal aspirations, and building a legacy. So let's get started. Maybe as a starting point, Ryan, you can give us a quick recap of your journey on how you got into the world of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me today. I was definitely not, I guess I was born an entrepreneur, but I didn't know it. I never had any aspirations of owning my own business. I was geared to be a doctor. That was my whole vision and focus in later years in high school and starting university. I did a hard pivot in university and went over into business school. I thought that business was probably actually more suited to who I am. Marketing felt very natural to me. It felt like I was tapping into some inner strengths, and I was able to use my creativity as well as my business acumen. But at the end of the day, I was still able to help people. So I went into the world looking for a job, and I had a few jobs in the early days. And after about 5 years in the industry, an opportunity came where I said, now is the time. I think I'm going to start my own firm and let's do this.
Love it. So tell us a little bit about your firm, William Joseph Communications.
Yeah, so WJ, we started 22 years ago now from a basement with $3,000. And it's now grown to be one of Canada's leading advertising marketing firms, which is super exciting. And so we do everything from full service strategy and branding to campaigns to digital to you name it, right across the marketing spectrum. So the company's grown now to over 40 key experts in different markets. And yeah, a little powerhouse when it comes to marketing communications and branding.
Wow, I love that. So I did my undergrad in marketing, but it seems like ages ago since I worked in that world. So you said 22 years that WJ's been around. That's phenomenal. And so tell me what you think or what you've seen as some of the key strategies or principles you've taken on as you've kind of moved from this startup, like you said, in a basement with $3,000 into a brand that's known across the country, and working with major brands and in many major markets. What are some of the things that you think have really led to your success in ability to scale and take this beyond a local agency?
Yeah, there's one simple thing. Surround yourself with brilliant people. Surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. So that allows you to scale up. In the very early days, like I could have wrote a marketing plan, but I never ever worked in my business. I always worked on it. So we hired contractors the very first day at WJ to say, you do this. Because I always knew if I was working in my business, who would grow my business? Who would be working on my business? And day one, I always thought, like, I'm not a small company. I'm a big company, but this is just the start of my story. And so I always had the vision that we were going to be big, and I had to run it like a big company on day one. So that was really exciting. And in hindsight, it worked. I think I use that principle every day at WJ. I kind of go, who's the smartest person to do this function? Get the right person in the right seat, and then you can scale up. What that comes with is two principles. You have to let go of your own personal ego. It's really tough when you start going like, wow, like they're way smarter and better at that. Let them do that. They're way smarter and better at that. Then somebody said to me one day, well, Ryan, what do you do? And I said, well, I just find really smart people. That's my job. People with passion, people with direction, people that are kind, people that are super smart. And that's what I do now is I help put that collective together. but I think it also comes with a great deal of change. Every time the company grows, my job changes. And so I have to thrive on change. I have to be open-minded to this to go, well, what do I do now? So this last year, we did a big reorg. I think you see kind of points in your company's history where you go, a big change happened. So last year, a big change happened. We rebranded ourselves as WJ Agency, which everyone knows us as WJ anyways. So it kind of just became like a nice natural progression. But we also rechanged a lot that we did in the company. We added a new org structure, and it really moved me into a totally different box. And so again, it's kind of like, okay, it's what keeps it fresh though. After 22 years, you could get really tired of a job, but when it changes all the time and it's growing and you see it's for the better good, I definitely feel that those changes are smart. The one thing too we always do at WJ is like lean into your strength. So, I know what I'm really good at. So the more I can do what I'm really good at, it's going to affect our company's culture, affect our company's profitability, and really affect our bottom line. So I focus on what I'm good at. I hire the other people that focus on what they're good at. And together we start really scaling up.
Oh, I love that. The whole concept of often we limit ourselves by holding on to specific types of work and not acknowledging that as you grow, where you need to be focusing your time and the type of things you're focusing on totally change. So what would you say in this last pivot that for yourself as owner and kind of chief entrepreneur, that you moved from and moved to? What would be some of the biggest changes?
Yeah, so I think I was basically playing the role of CEO and COO in the company, and I am not a COO type of person. There is a skill set in itself, and I am the first person to go, that's not my strength. So for me, putting in a managing director was really, really important, almost like a GM for the firm, one point person that can run the day-to-day. So while I'm out doing the other things, the business continues. Where again, I'm big ideas, I'm selling the sizzle. Jordan, as the managing director, is really the person that's like, he's taking it all and making it happen, right? So I think that was a really great like change that we made at the agency, is putting that role in and having that person run that. Like, we also use the EOS model of utilizing traction. So again, it was very clear I'm a visionary, and Jordan's the integrator. It was just obvious. So long story short, we created that role, we moved him into place. And so now in the 8 months that we've been doing this, you can feel the difference in the company already. We're both doing what we excel in, and we're scaling up much quicker.
Oh, I love that. I'm a huge proponent of the EOS model and do a lot of work with that on the coaching clients that I work with. And that distinction between not everyone is a visionary and not everyone is an integrator. And that is beautiful. Where when we start, we feel like we have to be all of that, right? Plus, chief doer, you seem to have in your journey really understood from day one, you can't be or don't want to be chief doer and focus on the big stuff, which I think is probably allowed you to fast track the growth of your organization, because you didn't get caught up on that stumbling block of, I need to do everything.
It all comes down to also, though, trust and credibility. Like, I trust Jordan can do his job amazingly well. So I try to stay out of his space, right? I'm like, you do it. Because if I jump in, jump out, jump in, jump out, it's just not going to work. He knows what he has to accomplish, and I empower him to run and get that part done. I'll go do my part. So, I trust him. I know he's more than capable. And I think that's a philosophy that we have at WJ, is that we hire brilliant people to do a job. We don't micromanage. We trust that you do it. We're here to support you if you need some help. I'm always like, Jordan, if you need to call me, you call me, but otherwise you've got this. And that gives ownership. When people own their role and own their accountabilities, they can thrive and they can soar, right? So that's kind of how we roll.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. The number of organizations over the past where I've seen, a person in your position kind of jump in if they see something go off the rails and, oh, I need to fix this, without acknowledging it really cuts that person off at the knees and
Mhm.
disincentivizes them to take ownership, which is exactly what you want them to do, when you've delegated and created, in this case, particularly a second in command. Wow. So I want to talk about time management and techniques that you have found successful as you've grown your business. So I guess maybe as a starting point, how do you manage it all? So growing a business, creating that vision, hiring the right people, supporting the right people, plus you're involved in so many things at a community level beyond WJ, maybe WJ's, involved in some of them, but you're also incredibly busy with a lot of passion projects. How do you fit it all in?
It's crazy. People watch me on social and they're like, how do you do it? You're everywhere. How do you make this happen? And to be honest, I kind of live a really chill life. Like, so I think I'm on to something. I'm not sure here, but I seem to be pulling it off. There's many things that I do, right? So number one, having the right people in the right seats, you don't have to micromanage them. I have a 1 hour meeting with my team every day or every week at WJ where we get a lay of the land. We look at KPIs, we look at key issues, things that can be addressed or things that need my input. And then I'll see you next week. Now, if emergencies come, we'll have a meeting, but they're not very often. I love being involved in key client meetings. So I still am attending those when I have the opportunity. I love meeting people for coffee, whether it's a person off of LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm new to the city. I'm like, hey, let's hang out. I make time for building relationships. And I think in the early days, I was very much like, oh, is this person going to lend themselves to a sale? And so I was always trying to be very like correlating this activity to like a direct result. Now I have a little bit more time where I try to build our profile, help people out, because I always think, you might not be the person that's an advanced WJ, but maybe somewhere down the line our paths will cross and there's some synergy there. Building goodwill is a good thing for business. And it's a good thing. It's the right thing to do. So I try to guide my time and my activities between like, it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing for WJ. So I take those all into account. I think there's, I don't live a 9 to 5 life. It just wouldn't work. If I tried to cram everything into this, it doesn't work. I have to go when there's events on, I schedule the events, I schedule client meetings. So some days between like 2 and 5, I'm kind of in slippers watching TV, chilling because my downtime today is in that time slot. It's not in the evening, it's not there. And that's okay. I think there was a spot in the early days too where I had guilt. Like I'm an 80-hour-a-week type of person. So if I'm not working all the time, I feel guilty. But then you also burn out, right? So I was like, okay, wait, I need to have balance. I need to have fun. I need to have downtime, chill with the dogs at home. And then there's the times to be on. So if you look at my calendar, I'm really big in time blocking. So I kind of have like a morning time block, an afternoon and an evening, and it kind of runs in parallel to my calendar. But I'm just like, hey, what do I want to do today or this week? And I'm like, oh, I have to cut the grass. I'm going to put that in that time block. I want to do this. And so I'm always just working around things. So again, no 2 days ever look the same. I'm not 9 to 5. My staff sometimes think I'm like nocturnal because I'm in the office at 9 at night, but it's kind of when the time slot happens for me to go into the office. And then you start putting travel and stuff around that too. So yeah, I don't know. It works for me.
I think that's interesting. The thing that really jumped out at me as you're talking was around getting to a point where you can release guilt. That, as an entrepreneur, our brains never shut off. So,
No.
Even if we're not actually sitting at our desk or in a meeting, it doesn't mean we're not like thinking and percolating on, how am I going to overcome this issue? How am I going to seize this opportunity? What about this constant list of to-dos that's growing? But to get to the point where you can say, you know what, I'm going to take, this afternoon chunk and focus on the me stuff, the life stuff, because I have commitments in the morning and I have commitments in the evening, and my team understands that. I think that's such a beautiful thing that speaks to the, the maturity of your mindset, but also, obviously what you've cascaded into your business.
Yeah, and you know what I think is people expect me or one another to be on when they're in their presence. I think too many people show up and they're not present in the moment, and you can tell. So there's been times where I've had crazy days because again, this is in theory. Some days and weeks are nuts, and let's be honest, I don't get to time block as well as I'd like. It's just so busy. But there's been times where I've showed up at my Ryan's roundup and people have said, "Oh, you look so tired. Oh, are you okay?" And it's like, they notice. They notice if Ryan isn't Ryan and Ryan isn't on, or if I attend an event and I'm low energy, they're like, "Oh, is everything okay?" So, I think there's this whole mindfulness that, when a WJ, and just for me, I always want to be present. People love to work with us because we're present. We're there for their business. Like, we treat them like they're the only client, and we develop that experience for them. So when I also have events and stuff like that, I want my guests at my roundup to feel like I'm here and it's a special time together and I'm here for you. So that sometimes means having a nap at 2 p.m. to recharge so that you are on for that evening fundraiser or roundup.
Oh, totally. So you've talked earlier about EOS as a tool you use to help you run your business. And that's like, speaking to the heart of me. Do you have any other types of project management software or tools that you use to help you be effective?
Oh, isn't that a great question? No, I won't pull this up, but I'll show you. On my cell phone, we have our little notes button where I literally have my time blocking. And because here's the thing, whether it's marketing, whether it's time management, it's the theories. The tools are just like applications to help you. And I literally go into my notes and go, what do I have to do this afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, this and this. And it's very simple for me, right? I don't over complex this because I think sometimes when things get over complicated, then I don't even use them. So there's this whole little sense of old schoolness for me where I just literally have in my notes my little time blocks for the week. And every Sunday I sit down and I kind of lay out the week and look at my calendar and go, what's the key priorities? But it's always like, well, when am I doing groceries? Okay, I'm going to time block that in. I love yard work. When am I going to cut the grass and do some yard work? I'm going to put that in there because then it kind of takes away that spot of like, oh shit, my list is so long and now I'm feeling overwhelmed. I never feel overwhelmed because I always am putting things in little time blocks when I think of them. And I'm like, oh, I can squeeze that in there and there. And then, yeah, it's a week out and that's what happens.
That's, I've kind of just gotten into the concept of time blocking in the last year or so, and have found for my own personal sanity, like that is the magic bullet to keep me sane. So, for me, I've got a dog as well, only one, but my day starts with getting outside and going for a minimum 15-minute walk, play a little bit of fetch if we can find a quiet park, and starting my day with, okay, I need that grounding of connecting to fresh air. And then, another thing for me that I just like, I literally build my calendar around it is Pilates. So Pilates is kind of my happy place where it's my community, but it's also where I just keep my body feeling like I'm not aging as quickly as I probably am. Where I'm just like, I can tell if I don't go, if I've been traveling, like last week I was doing a ton of traveling and a ton of facilitation. So I was standing a lot. And this past week, and I was like, oh my gosh, my body feels terrible, but I didn't get to Pilates except for Monday last week because the rest of the time I was fully committed, between 2 different cities and whatnot. And so I really try to make that a priority. And then my other third part is, one of the key values to me is flexibility, and I think as entrepreneurs, often that's something that was intriguing to us and why we chose this path versus, having someone else dictate our calendar. And, so I totally appreciate that. Like, okay, it's not, I don't start at 8 every day and I don't end at 5 every day. Some days it's 5 a.m. Some days it's 11 a.m. that I start, and some days it's 11 p.m., that I finish. But for me, being able to go see my son's hockey game or my daughter's volleyball game, or, I'm kind of beyond the days of doing field trips and, being able to maintain my sanity in the presence of that many young minds. But anyway, so that whole concept of flexibility and really getting it to the point of not feeling guilty when
I think
I
it
take that time.
also lends itself to, like, for me, it's all about being proactive, right? So I think there's a spot where, you just actually were talking about health. The better you can keep your body healthy, and being proactive, you're saving yourself from doctor's visits down the line. But even just on a very micro level, I don't tend to go to bed until the house is clean and reset. I don't go to bed until my emails are all answered, because tomorrow will have its own challenges. And I just love when I have a monthly segment on Global News talking about marketing and stuff. I just love when I get a call in the morning. Ryan, we have this segment. I need you on the air in like an hour. Well, if I wasn't kind of ready, I would miss those opportunities. Or if a client calls and says, "Oh, I'm in town. Can we meet?" Yeah, I want to be available. So there's this whole sense where I go to sleep going, I've got my stuff taken care of, so I can seize opportunities in the morning beyond my time blocks. I could easily squeeze that in. And, I think sometimes, especially in the earlier days, but even now I feel it, like I have to build in some, like, again, like me time. Like as you get older, it takes a little bit more effort to wake up and be present. So, it is like Sundays, I do spend those days to kind of like, is laundry done? How am I going to look for Monday morning? Do we need to get a little haircut and stuff, but be prepared to seize opportunities, and so that you have the time to do them. And honestly, I see too many people redlining it, and they can't even keep up. So when an opportunity comes in, it's just not even possible because they're so far behind.
So it sounds like, as I'm listening to you say this, that you are so clear on your core values, and you really manage your calendar, your life to align and, be able to really commit into living out those values.
Very much so. Like I care about a lot of things. When people go, "Ryan, why are you at so many events?" Well, because I care about cancer, and I've had families pass away about it. I'm going to be there and support my friends that are making a difference in cancer. And I'm going to support my friends that are helping like youth. And I'm going to support the business community, because I have a lot of friends and I believe in a lot of causes. And if I can be there to champion and use my profile through social media to help build like awareness for them, I'm going to do that. But I also love my WJ team, and I love being there on Tuesdays and in person, where we can, visit and hang out and build relationships. And I also love my dogs. And to be honest, I don't mind cleaning too. I kind of like getting down in the weeds in the house and be like, yeah, let's clean this place up. I love to do a lot of things, so I just have to make time for it, and I feel that it's just with proper management. Like some people might say, well, don't you like being spontaneous? Yeah, there's some time blocks that are empty. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do in that spot. I might do nothing. I'll just give you the one flip though, talking about guilty. The other day I was having a me day. It was a Sunday. I was on the couch. I was doing nothing, and I had no intent of doing anything. And I started to look through social media, and I saw all of my friends doing amazing things. Like one was climbing a mountain, and somebody else was doing this. And I felt so lazy. I was like, Ryan, like, get up, go do something big. But then I kind of thought, no, like you have to remember it's all about balance. People on social media post just the amazing stuff. They don't tend to post that they're just laying on a couch, which then I posted, I'm just laying on a couch today. It's okay to have a me day. So if you're laying on a couch, that's absolutely cool. Don't feel the guilt of having to always be productive. But anyways, yeah. I just think you have to have moderation there.
Well, and understand what recharges your own batteries. And,
Yes.
I've seen so many, even like, so this past weekend, so my significant other loves golfing. And so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 consecutive days, did 18 holes of golf. Like that's 5 hours a day. And, and then comes home and he loves to cook and do all of these other things. And I was like, you know what? my body is so tired from a really busy week, and, busy week where it was strenuous on my body. Traveling is hard on the body. Standing for long periods of time is hard on the body. I was like, I want to watch some movies, and, I want to do a little bit of yard work and, take the dog for a walk, but mostly I just want to sleep and I want to relax, my body. And I used to have a point in time where I would feel guilty because a lot of people in my life are very active and that's how they recharge. You can't sit still. But then I, got to the point where I've acknowledged, well, that's not how I recharge. I need quiet, alone time, so faith is a big part of my life. So, carving out space for that and, downtime. So,
Yes.
and not feeling guilty, or, you go on a holiday and there are the people that can't sit still and they need to, be doing this activity and that activity. And I'm like, no, I'm actually really good with a book right here on this chair until I get so hot I need to jump into the water, then I'll do that. But otherwise, this is where I'm going to be for the next 8 hours and I'm a-okay.
Yeah. And like, I think one part to note though, is like, for me, there are habits that become productivity stealers, right? So I go, is that helping me advance my day or what I'm trying to accomplish in life? So like, I don't watch TV. People are like, you're in marketing and you don't watch TV. Like, I might watch one movie every 2 years and you will never catch me typically watching TV. I might watch 2 hours a month, which is really kind of an odd thing, but I don't watch TV. I listen to podcasts. I love to learn. TV is just not my thing. I can get stuck on social media. I can go onto TikTok and be like 15 minutes. What now? I know there's people that will spend several hours, but I'm like, Ryan, come on now. This is mindless rubbish for your brain. You're just loving this, but it's like, what could you be doing that's better? So I've also built in these little controls or red flags to go, you're on here too long, go do something productive. And productive to me is go walk with, like, take the kids outside, the fur kids, just so people know, go hang out with them, go do something. But anyways, yeah, I just try to be very mindful of just not wasting time, because I think time is the most precious thing we have. We can make money like that. You could land a huge contract, you can make money real quick, but you can't get back those years. And to be honest, like, whether this is kind of going back to me talking about WJ and marketing, it pains me when I see clients struggling and not coming to firms like ours to get help. And year 1 goes by, year 2 goes by, year 3, they're still in the same spot because they didn't invest in branding and a marketing plan that could have helped them accelerate, because they're fearful. They're fearful of it spending and stuff. And I'm like, but if you would have invested, think of where you would have been now, how you could have scaled up. So, I think like it's a bit of a side conversation here, but I truly think like when you spend your time on the right things, you can accelerate your life, your business, whatever. If you're fearful and you sit stuck and you do the old things over and over again, you're just not going to get different results.
Yeah, so true. What do you think are some of the main reasons that hold people back, from taking that step? Whether it's on the marketing front or, a different side. What do you see as some of the biggest stumbling blocks that other business owners, or maybe even yourself, have that holds them into their current patterns?
I could write a book on this after what I've learned in the last few years. My business is accelerating and I've lost a significant amount of weight in the last 2 years. What's different now? Why now? Because I think sometimes what happens is problems seem too big. And so you don't even think you can attack it, right? Like, I was getting more and more weight and I was like, it is what it is. Like, who doesn't want to be fit? But I have no desire or energy to even attack it because I'm too busy. And, we would have team meetings at WJ and it'd be like, same problems next week. And it's like, well, this is just the way it is. Because we were so busy focusing on what's urgent, we weren't focusing on what was important, right? So I think there was this spot where there's something in your head that happens in a day where you kind of go, like, for me, like with my weight loss journey, I was like, I don't want to have diabetes. I don't want to be this big. I feel like I'm just not living an authentic life. I need to make a drastic change. And a little change wasn't going to help, because honestly, losing 2 pounds and gaining 2 pounds and losing 2 pounds and gaining 2 pounds, that's pointless. I didn't want to even put, if I'm not going to get a big result, I'm not putting any energy in. And so I changed a whole bunch of things. And the thing is this, you have to change a whole bunch of little things to get a big result. There's no magic bullet in business or in weight loss or in life. But when you change these 8 little factors, it's funny how it all adds up to a big difference. And that's how I lost weight. And then like with the company, it wasn't just me moving Jordan to that role. It was this and putting these people here and focusing here. It was 8 different things that we did through EOS and stuff that yielded this result, right? So, and like in marketing, it's not just being on social media, it's these things together. So it's the synergy of little things that build a big impact. And, you know, I think for me, there's things that I'm just naturally good at life and it comes easy. And there's things I struggle with. Like I struggle with working out. I would rather regrout my tile in my bathroom than lift a weight. Like it is not what I want to do. That is probably the hardest thing for me, it is to do that. But I literally am like, but without that, it's a key part of this success. And I have to wrap my brain around it. Sometimes you do things because you like to, sometimes you do things because it's discipline, you know? And then once you get down there, you're like, actually, it's not so bad, you know? So I think the thing, to go back to your question, sometimes life just seems insurmountable. You can't attack it. And, you know, people can tell you all they want. This is how you lose weight. This is how you grow your business. But until you're in the mindset to go, I'm ready to listen, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But when your mind gets there and you go, I want to be that person. I need somebody to maybe help me get there. And the magic comes together. And when you start realizing there is no silver bullet, it's a whole bunch of little things that will get you there. That's when you start seeing the traction. And then that gets exciting, because then you go, I lost 5 pounds. I lost 20 pounds. I lost 50 pounds. Then you're juiced, or the company's actually turning and we can see this. Like that's exciting, you know, but it's day 1 that nothing's going to happen. And day 2, nothing's going to happen. And day 4, nothing still happened. But that's when you have to have faith and belief that you go, I know if I keep going, these results are coming. And so the early days are tough when you take a hard pivot, because you're kind of going in with blind faith and you're kind of like, I know that worked for other people, but is that going to work for me? You know? So anyways, we could talk about that for hours.
Yeah. I totally get that. So a couple questions here before we wrap up. What does the next chapter for you and WJ look like? What are some of the big things on your horizon?
Yeah, like being 22 years in is quite crazy. Like, I don't know, like, I think I just see the company scaling up to be a national agency. It's really exciting. We're just growing at such a rapid rate now that becoming a full national agency is well within our scope. You know, I think so. I see the agency taking on bigger and bigger clients and doing bigger and bigger things. I see that happening. I see building like for me to continue to educate, inspire, and entertain. That's my personal goal. So whether it's through podcasts like this, whether it's at speaking engagements, if I can share my story and somebody can walk away and go, wow, that really inspired me to think bigger, do bigger, to achieve more, like I'm all for that. I love that. I still think too, as big as that goes and profile builds, I also am more grounded now than ever. Like you're going to get me at home with the dogs on a Saturday night, probably if I'm not at a gala, and chilling at the house. So I think success is not necessarily more and grandeur. It's sometimes peace of mind, going to bed at night and going, I can sleep without worry. And yeah, hanging out with fur kids and family and friends.
Love it. Knowing what's most important and building priorities in pursuit of that. So final question. What is one piece of advice that you wish you knew 22 years ago when you were starting out?
You know, I think what I'm grateful for is not knowing what I'll answer your question in a roundabout way. I think being naive and young was a blessing, because if I knew too much, I probably might not have done it because it sounded too scary. But it's like a little kid growing up. They don't throw you into advanced calculus in grade 2, and they didn't throw me into 22-year-old problems at WJ at the beginning. I developed thicker skin, better mental aptitude. I was able to grow into this role over the 22 years. I think the thing is a lot of the guiding principles I knew then, and I always surrounded myself with smart people, and I still think that is number one. I think there might have been more focus put on. That's a tough question. What could I go back and tell myself then that I wouldn't know now? Yeah, I don't know. I literally feel that the big mistakes that I learned along the way taught me bigger lessons to leverage me ahead. Maybe trust my gut more. Honestly, I think if you really look back to it, there's times where my intuition is going off, but my logic was fighting it. And the two of them, and I'm more intuitive by nature, but yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. I've met some people that I look and I just think, wow, their gut intuition is so spot on. What an amazing gift. And how do we cultivate and dial into really understanding what our gut is telling us? I think we all have it. Not all of us are willing to listen or acknowledge that feeling. And, sometimes it comes from not listening to it and then having reality play out and be like, I had that feeling. I knew to listen to it, and acknowledging and using that as an opportunity for growth. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights. I've loved our conversation. And, we had the opportunity to meet in person for the first time not that long ago. We've seen each other on social media, run in many of the same circles. So it has been so awesome getting to hear your story, excuse me, and meeting you in person. And I know our paths will continue to cross. So thank you so much for sharing your insights and creating the space for this.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me.
My pleasure.